The final embargo about Assassin's Creed Mirage is lifted, and finally we can share our non-spoiler review, our opinions on the gameplay, the world, the story, and some tips and tricks to get you started, along with our overall verdict on the game. So no time to waste, we have so much to talk about. Let's dive into our non-spoiler review of Assassin's Creed Mirage. I'm going to start by saying that Mirage is a game that seems mostly tailored for me, for the longtime fans, and the hardcore fans. It's a strange feeling, after years of games introducing not only new gameplay elements but also story elements that oftentimes strayed pretty far from the original ideas and vibes of an Assassin's Creed game. And now instead with Mirage we are finally back playing as an assassin or hidden one, being part of a brotherhood, of a family of characters we get to know about, hunting down Templars, or should I say Order of the Ancients targets, through stealth tactics, deception and amazing assassination missions within a huge, beautiful and bustling city, and all of this while also discussing the philosophical aspects, the creed and the ways of the brotherhood. In general, Mirage is a love letter to fans. It does capture the atmosphere, the vibes and themes of the original games, and contextualizes them in the modern gameplay elements that Assassin's Creed now has, while also keeping most of its promises shared during the marketing campaign. I am honestly so excited we are back to these topics and themes, and I really hope to see more of this in the future, in different historical eras, different locations, but with the same approach, the same feeling, the same heart. Gameplay is at the core of the experience in Mirage. Stealth is fantastic here, the detection works properly at all times, it gives you time to understand what's happening and especially to react without being seen, and when you are seen, the game's Notoriety system will come into play, being gradually more punishing and culminating in the encounters with the very tough elite Shakiria enemies, but always with you feeling in control at every step of the way. The game can be challenging at times in terms of number of guards patrolling the areas we are infiltrating, but that's where the tools come into play, and these two are an integral part to the experience. The tools allow you to strategize before infiltrating a location. They can be used to create distractions, to incapacitate enemies, to assassinate them, and even to attack them directly if needed, and this really improves the approach to every situation, to every mission, which can be indeed tackled in so many ways, mixing parkour, the stealth systems, and the tools before assassinating our way through the various missions. Speaking of parkour, now that we have tested it for the entire game, we can confirm our first impressions. It is okay. It is the best the devs were able to do with the engine at their disposal, and it is and feels much faster than in the other RPG games of the franchise, especially because it is supported by the amazing design of the city of Baghdad and its dense buildings, which oftentimes make it clear which is the parkour highway you are about to take. But honestly, even if you decide to go on your own path, there's almost always some parkour element you can cling to or climb from to get to your destination. I only wish there were more parkour ingredients other than the corner swings and the pole vaults to diversify the system even more. And then we have the Assassinations and the Assassination missions, the famed black box missions. They are the culmination of all of our investigations in Baghdad and outside of it, and they are all stunning, huge set pieces, all feeling different from each other, where players are immersed, knowing the target they have to hunt, not at all times, making use of various opportunities offered by the NPCs, and being free to hunt their target the way they like. Sort of, as here sometimes it is mandatory to engage in some of the opportunities in order to root out the targets or even to progress in the various stages of the mission themselves. Nonetheless, different opportunities within the missions lead to different paths, which adds a lot to the replayability of the game, and while doing some of the investigations and the black box missions, especially when you see this symbol, you will be able to gain a disguise, which will allow you to walk undetected in specific areas, which was something I was excited to see, but the disguises are only contextual to the mission you are finding them in, rather than specific areas or specific enemies in the world. So once you're done with those missions, these disguises won't reduce your detection and will be just normal costumes. I guess that was a case of self-hype, huh? The game world is stunning, especially Baghdad, which is truly a bustling city, way more so than other main cities of past games, with lots of NPCs crowding the streets, and especially a density of NPCs that varies based on the locations that we are visiting, and this density, which is indeed similar to that of Assassin's Creed Unity, allows for a lot of social stealth opportunities, which can be really useful when tailing characters or when we are the chased ones. Baghdad also offers a variety of different locations and vistas based on its organization into 4 districts, which is one of the main callbacks to the original Assassin's Creed games. The city is teeming with activities and things to do, ranging from the Hidden Ones contracts, which we can find in the bureaus, where Basim is going to take on requests by the various allies of the Hidden Ones and sometimes feature weapons, outfits and items as rewards, to the Tales of Baghdad mini missions, which are curated missions centered on the culture of the time, plus some fan favorite characters like Hytham, and we also have several collectibles like the mysterious shards, which are collectibles we can find and use to obtain some spoilery gears, the lost books that you need to bring back to a scholar in the House of Wisdom, which was sort of reminiscing of a similar activity in Assassin's Creed Revelations, the wish artifacts, which are similar to the artifacts in Valhalla in that you need to collect them and give them to a character in exchange for rewards, even though this time they all have interesting and historical descriptions and they have to be pickpocketed from bystanders, and if your pickpocket goes wrong, there are other more direct ways to get them. And finally, in terms of collectibles, we also have the very frustrating enigmas, which are riddles that identify a location where we can find a reward, and not just some banal rewards, but talismans and even outfit dyes, and well, let's just say we have spent or lost a lot of time on these, sometimes without even finding the proper locations. I don't know, maybe we're just that slow. But Baghdad is not all there is to it. The world map contains another extensive area surrounding the City of Peace called the Wilderness, and this is where the issues of the extended maps from the previous games come crawling in like the genie. Aside from the 2 main villages located in the Wilderness, that is Anbar, where we start the game, and Jarjaraya, which is at the center of one of the main investigations, the rest of the Wilderness is mainly empty. Don't get me wrong, there are locations here and there are oases, ruins and the likes, and you can find equipment in there. There are major landmarks like the Agar Gulf Dunes and the Durgurigalzug Ziggurat, but other than that, nothing really happens in the Wilderness, aside from the very few occasions where the game takes you out of Baghdad, and there aren't even many NPCs or caravans roaming around, save from the few potential encounters with enemies guarding small chests, and this sir who is apparently taking care of the many cats around him. And as for Alamut, it's tough to go into that without entering the spoiler territory. That's a topic for our analysis videos, which are going to come at a later stage, but suffice to say, it's the home of the Brotherhood, it's where the Levantine Hidden Ones are managing their interests and their relations with the other organizations, and it's where Basim is trained to become a Hidden One, where he gets his teachings about the ways of the Brotherhood, and where he gets his first equipment with a beautiful and very serious and intimate initiation scene where he finally becomes a Hidden One proper. But this location hides a secret, which isn't really a secret. We have hypothesized it many times in our videos leading up to Mirage. But anyway, this is the location where we get to learn about the Hidden Ones of this time the most, with a number of Easter eggs and connections to past games as we already mentioned, but as we sadly expected, we can't travel to Alamut at any point in time. In fact, there are 2 specific moments commanded by the story where we can visit the Eagle's Nest, and that will be it. So I'd suggest you make your visits worth your while and save the game before or while you're there, otherwise you're going to have to restart the game in order to visit it again. In terms of available equipment and cosmetics, it might be a hit and miss for Mirage depending on your potential expectations. On one side, there's a pretty good deal of outfits and costumes to save the assassin fashionistas between us. Outfits are the actual outfits with perks that we are going to wear, while costumes are just visual overlays while keeping the perks of the original outfits. As of now, after finishing the game and exploring quite a bit, we have found 7 outfits and 9 costumes, which makes it 16 visuals without counting the dye variations, which is a pretty good number for a 20 to 30 hours long game. The same doesn't go for the weapons. We have found around 7 swords and 7 daggers, and I didn't get the feeling they were enough. I guess it's a fine number all things considered, but still I would have appreciated a bit more variety on them, considering we only have those 2 mandatory weapon types. And of course, finding all those chests containing only upgrading schematics for the weapons instead of new weapons didn't help, but again, minor nuisance. Another important element of our inventory are the tokens, and let me tell you, you need to gather these quick as soon as they are introduced in Baghdad, as they are going to make your life so much easier not only in the open world but also in the main story and in the black box assassinations. In order to get them, you can engage in the Hidden Ones contracts, progress in the story, and gather the various collectibles to obtain them, but the real way to get them is through pickpocketing, as we mentioned in our previous videos. So the best way to get as many as you can is to get in a crowded location like the bazaar or the main streets of the round city, anywhere you can find with many NPCs walking around really, unlock the skill that improves your pickpocketing or directly activating guaranteed pickpocketing in the menus, and then getting to work. This will allow you to obtain several tokens very quickly, and they will be useful in a variety of things like engaging in social stealth, paying the one cartographer in the game located in the round city to tell us the locations of collectibles in the world, bribing characters to obtain information or access to specific locations, hiring mercenaries to stage skirmishes that cause distractions, and more. By the way, mercenaries can also be used to cheat the elite Shakuria fights, especially in the early stages of the game where you are still finding your ground with the combat system, so remember that once you start playing. As for the skill tree, it is the one we saw in the previews, nothing more and nothing less. There are 23 skills in the game, each costing a different amount of skill points, and they are organized in 3 branches. Phantom, which is about stealth and assassinations with the chain assassination skill and improvements to the assassin's focus ability. By the way, when fully upgraded, this is so overpowered. Trickster, which is more about tools, pickpocketing and more, and Predator, which is more about exploration and includes skills that improve both Eagle Vision and Enkidu's precision. It is in here, in the skill tree, that you unlock the new tools right from the beginning, so my suggestion is to go for those immediately so you can face as much of the game as possible with all the tools at your disposal, and after that you'll be able to customize the use of each tool at any Hidden Ones bureau to change their effects, duration, damage and even color at times. Now let's talk story and narrative. In general terms obviously, and of course keep in mind these are opinions in the heat of the moment, while I have some more solid ones once I get to work on the upcoming story analysis, cause yes, like I said, those are coming back too. So I loved the story of the game quite a bit, with a few gripes here and there, but minor ones overall, and I loved Basim as a character and all his facets, which can be seen as the story evolves. He is a character that grows not only visually but also in the way he behaves, and even his tone of voice evolves to become more and more serious. And I also enjoyed all the characters in the game as they all fulfill the function they have in the story properly, both the positive and the negative ones. We are in front of a compact story, but at least to me, not a short one. I have completed it in 25 hours-ish, but that's because when I play I'm all over the place, I get distracted and do many of the side activities, so the story itself could be less than that. The story does show the evolution of Basim from his young age and his eagerness to be noticed by the Hidden Ones up until he becomes one himself. He learns the creed, he performs proper assassinations following the guidance of his master Roshan, he becomes a master, sadly without a dedicated cutscene, and finally something happens that changes things for Basim and leads to a series of events and revelations that make for a proper end to the game, with some interesting takes on what it means to be an assassin and to follow the creed or not, and of course some more interesting stuff for the hardcore fans. One thing I was hoping to see a bit more based on the trailers and the presentation of the game was the sense of internal and external struggle that Basim has in the early parts of his life, and while there is some internal struggle, what with the genie, throughout most of the game and up until the final assassination mission, there isn't almost any struggle between Basim and the Hidden Ones. We could say that the gist of the game is more about Basim becoming a well-established Hidden One while having his nightmarish visions, while the final part of the game is way more about all of his struggles and what will set him on a path that will lead him to know who he really is and eventually to get closer to the character we have seen in Valhalla. So as you can see, there are tons of positives to Mirage in almost every aspect of the game, but it's not all golden sparkles though. The game is very direct, very straight to the point in many occasions. Possibly because of its budget or development time, the game doesn't waste time and puts you straight into the events, the organizations, the ancient civilizations, the politics, the assassinations, etc. Which on one side can be appreciated, especially by longtime fans like me who already know what all of this is about. But fans that are used to a slower introduction and more time to get to know the characters before jumping into the gist of the game, they might feel a little disoriented here, and I also found a few instances of the story where it did seem to me like some content had been cut without tying the loose ends after cutting it. An example of this was in the Abbasiyya investigation and assassination that seemed to involve some interesting stuff for fans, and also one time where Bassem decided to not report on his assassination mission for no apparent reason. The game also crashed on me 3 times over 30 hours of gameplay, which is not too bad, but not too good either, but considering that the game still has an autosave function, and especially that as usual there's a day 1 patch coming, that wasn't too bad of a deal. Some other minor gripes that I have for the game are that, especially in terms of gameplay, what was discussed during the marketing campaign is a lot of what can be found in the game, with not so many other surprises. The Parkour ingredients are only the corner swings and the pole vaults. There aren't any additional stealth tools to play with, though honestly the customization combinations are a lot and you can mix and match with them to suit your playstyle, and like I said already, combat is very much stripped to the basics, so I'm not surprised that wasn't featured that much in the campaign. Even in terms of narrative, a good chunk of the cutscenes, even of the final assassination, are featured in the trailers, albeit obviously not in a spoilery way. I guess this boils down to the nature of the game. It's rising from a concept of a DLC, the short amount of time taken to deliver it, its delays, etc. But that's not to say that Mirage doesn't have much to offer though. On the contrary, the world is teeming with activities, and it does have a proper story from start to finish, with a single character that is an assassin. He performs assassin actions in an urban world that is designed for him. It has those sci-fi elements that I was hoping for, and it does connect to the other games of the franchise, especially Valhalla. All in all, it was the game for me. I think it's a game for hardcore fans, but even new players can enjoy a modern take of what it means to be an assassin within Assassin's Creed and the consequences that might bear. So this was our early, non-spoiler review of Assassin's Creed Mirage, as we're gearing up to prepare our story analysis of the game and its content, but before that, keep your eyes out on our channel as we are going to have way more content coming your ways, and we are going to stream the game later today too. So thank you so much for watching. Huge thanks to our ATA insiders who keep supporting us all the way through. You guys are incredible, and I'll see you all in our next video.